My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Feyre's antics against Jac and Branna set off Tamlin. When his anger becomes explosive, his closest comrades turn against him, just in time for Feyre to see her plans to foil Ianthe and Tamlin's authority executed. As the end to her time at the Spring Court looms closer, Feyre extracts the last bit of information from Hybern that she needs for her sabotage to be worthwhile. But what the High Lady of the Night Court fails to realize is that those around her have machinations of their own that are just as deadly.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on characters and themes of this novel.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, death, and depression, will recur throughout the podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels.
This season, we're exploring Sarah J. Maas's most ambitious novel in the Court of Thorns and Roses series.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
This week, we're discussing chapters 8 through 10 in A Court of Wings and Ruin.
This week, we ask ourselves, does Feyre have any self-awareness?
Themes that we're going to see include loyalty and pride.
Chapter 7 ended with Feyre unwilling to clean up the messes of Dagden and Branna, essentially viewing them as children, having thrown a temper tantrum for not getting their way initially with the Children of the Blessed. That temper tantrum ended with the Children of the Blessed being killed by the Hybern commanders. Ironically, Chapter 8 begins much the same way, except this time it is Tamlin treating Lucien and Feyre like children, while he is the all-knowing patriarch. Quote, "You should have left it alone for me to deal with," Tamlin heaved a jagged breath. "Not retaliated like children." He threw a glare in Lucien's direction. "I expected better from you." What Tamlin is not saying, and what Feyre proceeds to call him out for, is the fact that he is essentially calling Feyre the most childlike of them all, since he doesn't even expect her to know better. In this moment, Tamlin transports Feyre and us as readers back to Thorns and Roses, where Feyre was always treated like a child. While Tamlin isn't wrong that Feyre is a child in years compared to him and Lucien, it is a misstep that Feyre uses to her advantage.
I'm going to come in with a different point of view. I'm going to claim that Feyre is the one throwing the temper tantrum, and that's because she's trying to get what she wants. Feyre wants Tamlin to explode. Feyre has always asked to be taken more seriously, to be given more responsibilities. And with Rhys, Feyre steps up and becomes more mature. With Tamlin, she's now playing into the role of the child, like when she first showed up in the Spring Court in Thorns and Roses. Tamlin is fair in saying that he expects better with Lucien because Lucien doesn't have the same personal connection as Feyre does. Like, that's just truth, that's fact. By saying this, Tamlin's not saying he doesn't expect better from Feyre. Rather, he's showing that he understands her emotions and wants to give her room to feel them, rather than to reprimand her for them. But even Feyre's logic in this scene becomes childish, and we'll see this in a quote later. And I'm not saying this because I'm thirsty for the big T. The big T. Like, Mommy, Daddy, look at me. I went to school and I got the big T.
Nice. Nice.
That's a wet leg. Like, look at us not quoting Taylor Swift. That's a wet leg quote there.
It's called growth on our parts.
I'm like, it's called Shay's Lounge. I don't know what you're...
By calling Feyre a child, Tamlin gives Feyre the opening she's been looking for, a reason to be legitimately angry with him. Because in this moment, he's gone back on his promise to change and do better with regard to her. The icing on the cake is when Tamlin implies that human lives should not be important to High Fae.
I sound like such a Tamlin apologist, which I'm not. I'm a Tamlin thyrsus, not an apologist. But I want to look into what he's saying, because we're viewing this from Feyre's eyes, and she's spinning this argument to be what she wants. Is there any actual evidence of Tamlin not caring for human lives? Tamlin hadn't said, it's fine if they die. He just made a point that this is a political matter that needs to be handled with care, and not that he wouldn't have handled it. When Tamlin points out that Feyre has a connection to humans, which she does, Feyre uses that as a point of contention. Maybe this is something that really does anger Feyre, that she was human, that there is a connection, that Feyre isn't one of the Fae just yet.
I also wonder to what regard her knowledge of Tarquin and Rhys has tainted her view of Tamlin, because he's not as outwardly outspoken about equality between all creatures, that she just assumes Tamlin is prejudiced.
Which is funny because, like, he does walk the walk a bit, you know? Like, yeah. We mentioned it, like, with Calamite, or not Calamite, but, like...
Summer Solstice.
Summer Solstice, that, like, there were high fae and lesser fae, lower fae, whatever, like, all mingling together. And, like, Feyre doesn't even bat an eye at that. It's like, come on, Feyre. Feyre's own logic in her argument is reaching. A. Feyre accuses Tamlin of thinking the wall is the only solution for human and fae. B. By having the wall, does that then make fae not care or care? Like, I don't get what Feyre is trying to point out here. Because the wall's there, then they're not connected to humans. Like, I can see that. Yes, like, you know, they're out of sight, out of mind type of thing. But then she says that the loss of life on either side is a personal connection. But then, on the next page, Feyre goes and yells that the Hybern prince and princess can burn in hell.
I mean, we've seen a lot lately that she's a hypocrite.
Yeah, like, her argument was like, I kind of get what you're saying, but it's not quite making full sense just yet to me. And then finally, Feyre accuses Tamlin of only caring about the high fae, as if he doesn't care about the lower fae. Like, he's never shown that.
Right, and I think as you're going to say in a little bit, Feyre's pushing her agenda here. Oh, my note says to make others question Tamlin, but I can't read my own handwriting, and I thought it said to make others QAnon. What? Why did I write that?
Oh my
That's
God.
Not what I wrote.
Oh my God.
Though maybe Feyre has a right to get mad at Tamlin here, if we want to see the other side. And though she may be right to defend Lucien, I want to suggest, as I just mentioned, that it's all calculated, as we learn later in the chapter. However, we should know before we're even told. And why is that? That's because in this scene, Feyre is shouting. Feyre is not a shouter. So for her to shout, it's a very calculated move on her part.
Yes, and what she's yelling is calculated too. Feyre is putting on a performance for the people outside. Quote, "Don't talk down to me, not after what I went through to get back here, to you, to our people." Damn, Feyre, she is spinning this whole thing. Also, Feyre flat out says that she's urging Tamlin to lose it. Quote, "His breathing turned ragged again. Good. I wanted to urge him. Good." Feyre wasn't able to get this reaction when Tamlin walked in on her and Lucien, and now she's going all out on this.
I love something Lucien says in defense of Feyre's in his decision to track down the bogey and stick it on the Hybern commanders. Quote, "If we let Hybern walk all over us, we stand to lose more than their alliance. The bogey reminded them that we aren't without our claws too." This, if you didn't catch it, is a direct dig at Tamlin, the one who is often accused by us and Feyre for being a beast without claws. Tamlin knows it too, because he tells Lucien to get out, and, quote, "there was enough violence in those words that neither Lucien nor I objected."
We really love to see Lucien push back with Tamlin, and he's doing that right here. He's pushing back, and I love it. Love to see this. It's been a long time coming. Lucien even calls Tamlin Tam. Lucien's turned around this whole treating someone like a child thing on its head because now Lucien is gentle parenting Tamlin. He's being casual and he's trying to be in control.
Never ever would I have thought Lucien and gentle parenting would be in the same sentence.
Yeah, and yet somehow it makes sense. Like, Tamlin needs some gentle parenting.
No, it's so true.
Like, his parenting was not gentle in the slightest, so now he just needs that, like, that guiding hand. Like, all right, well, that's our outside voice.
Yeah.
We need our inside voice, Tam. Tam.
Feyre just goes for the jugular after Lucien is out of the room. We see Feyre weaponize the metaphor of sex to demonstrate the power dynamics between Tamlin and Hybern. And it's a very clear parallel to what everyone accused Rhys of doing during his time with Amarantha. Quote, "You hoard us out to Hybern. You might be willing to get down on your knees for Hybern, but I certainly am not." Toward the end of the last season, we discussed how Tamlin has always wanted to be Rhys. I think that's still true in all ways except this. Tamlin always considered himself better than Rhys because Rhys was Amarantha's whore. So, to be compared to a whore, specifically for Hybern, where Amarantha was from, Tamlin has become Rhys in the worst way possible, and he can't stand it.
I love that point. It's almost as if, like, there's that level of, like, I'm better than you. Like, I didn't have to whore myself out. And then here he is actually doing that because I'm sure in Tamlin's mind, that's, like, the one thing he gets to hold over Rhys.
Oh, yeah.
Of superiority. And it's just, like, Rhys did it the right way. In the sense of, like, it only hurt him.
Right.
Tamlin's doing it in the way where it hurts his entire court.
Right, which is not great.
I didn't mean the right way or wrong way. I hope people understood what I was saying.
In the sense that he was self-sacrificing rather than willing to sacrifice everybody.
There we go. Thank you. That. Copy paste that.
At this point, Tamlin explodes, and it's a clear parallel to when he exploded at the start of Mist and Fury. This time, however, we see what happens when Feyre does not defend herself. So I have a question. If Feyre had not defended herself in Mist and Fury, could some of the fallout happening now have happened back then? Could Tamlin have righted his wrongs sooner, or would it have even mattered?
I think when Feyre protected herself last time, it added a new fear. That fear of her own power. There was shock behind what Tamlin did, but there was also shock behind what Feyre was capable of doing. The fact that she was able to keep him out of her bubble. Tamlin had to beg to get her to put that bubble down. I think it just adds another layer of complexity that they never really talked about, making their relationship way more likely to be doomed from the beginning. I have another question too, and this might be controversial, but please know that I in no way, shape, or form support domestic violence. This is a work of fantasy, and I'm trying to understand SJM's magic and therefore the thoughts behind this moment. When Tamlin lashes out, it's described as an explosion. Energy comes from all over. It's like pent-up anger that literally just blasts out. It wasn't directed at her. Tamlin didn't go swinging at Feyre. Again, this isn't okay, but I'm also trying to explain why SJM is setting up a redemption arc for Tamlin. Tamlin has anger issues, obviously, and Feyre knows what she's doing. This whole scene is messy, and I think it kind of insults domestic violence. Not that SJM is insulting it, but Feyre and how she's treating this whole thing. Feyre even turns to Tamlin and apologizes, an action that screams domestic violence, and Feyre's not respecting that.
So I see what you're saying, that in this moment, Feyre's almost making a mockery of domestic violence because she's painting herself as a domestic violence victim without true domestic violence.
Yeah, like she's using it for show when it's not show, it's like people's reality.
Right. And I want to be conscious of the fact that maybe we have listeners who have experienced violence at the hands of others that they love. And I think in my mind, though this is not Tamlin intentionally hitting Feyre or intentionally causing Feyre harm, I do see moments like this as potentially escalating into the realm of domestic violence, right? Because
like those early warning signs.
Yeah, I don't know 100% because I have not experienced this myself. But if you have someone who breaks all the glass dishes and it ricochets and cuts a person that they love, they didn't intend for that. But when do they stop throwing dishes and when do they start
hurting you physically.
Right. Or when
Yeah.
do they start throwing the dishes at you with the intent to harm? So I think it's hard to really understand what's happening here, but I see what you're saying too.
It's one of those like particularly messy moments because, I mean, like, to be clear, SJM did this for a reason, that Tamlin never specifically goes after her because she wants him to be saved.
Right.
And that's such a fine detail that I'm not trying to split hairs, but, you know, like, we're doing the analysis. This is more of like, hey guys, she's setting him up for a redemption arc. We're going to get that one way or another. This is why, is because he's never done this specific thing. But to your point, if we were to apply this in like a real world setting, yeah, if your partner is throwing dishes and exploding their anger elsewhere, like, huge red flag warning sign.
Right.
Which could lead to potentially way worse.
Right. Exactly. So after this explosion, Feyre retreats to her room and has a conversation with Rhysand. I don't know how I feel with Rhysand ending this conversation with Feyre, having just checked on her safety, with an image of his tongue occupied, quote, doing something else, which we all know exactly what he's doing.
What is it?
I was about to make that, like, stick my tongue out, but I realized you can't see that on the podcast.
Because I don't have my glasses on?
Oh, I was thinking about the listeners, not you.
Oh, I'm like, I don't have my glasses.
Yeah, that's true.
It would just be blurry.
Violence can only be followed up with sex. This is a pattern for Feyre. This moment even parallels a scene from Mist and Fury, when Tamlin exploded at Feyre and she protected herself with the Wall of Wind. Tamlin later makes love to Feyre. So, it's only appropriate for Rhys to wipe that memory away, which Feyre undoubtedly recalls, with thoughts of his tongue between Feyre's legs, because Rhys and Tamlin are the same.
Later on in this book, Feyre and Rhys are going to have sex in a war camp among the dead and injured. And this kind of has the same vibes to me, where it's just like, is that really the time and place? I don't know. At the same time, I don't think I'd ever say no to that. You want to go down on me? All right.
Okay.
I'll make do. Watch me compartmentalize real fast. Think about how wrecked Tamlin must be in this moment. I know that's such a like weird transition and stuff, but like, just take a beat with me, guys. Feyre is out here video sexting with Rhys at this moment, and Tamlin is out there like just, I mean, we know what he's doing. He's with Ianthe, just apologizing. Horrible person to go to. Tamlin's thinking that he's made an effort, he's done better, that he's thinking that, wow, he is a horrible, horrible fae, and that he's lashed out at Feyre again, and that he's definitely in his own head. And then Feyre and Rhys are, like I was saying, having the equivalent of phone sex. To me, this immediate follow-up with sex makes it easier for the reader to not punish Tamlin as much as well. We see that Feyre is okay. SJM is giving us clues that we can not feel bad about the situation. Even in this scene, Feyre starts in the bathtub, something that in season 2 we talk about being baptismal. It's the cleansing of sins, and that holds true in this book as well. But here we see the bath water start to turn cold. This isn't a normal, comforting, cleansing action. This isn't a moment of peace. It's being ruined because Feyre isn't cleansing her actions.
Because she has no remorse.
And she should.
Yeah.
Even if what you're doing, and we support the cause of it, he still shouldn't have done that. Like, there should still be a moment of like, wow, I really pushed that. I specifically went in there with that intent.
And he feels horribly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's messy. And on one hand, people will hate Tamlin for his actions. But on the other hand, Tamlin knows he did wrong.
Yeah, he knows it. And I'm trying to think of like when I've like tried to specifically go and start shit with someone. I don't think I go and start shit that hard.
No.
Not to that level.
No.
Like, I'm trying to think of like arguments I've had, and no.
No, I don't go with the intent to get shoved around.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think I'm like going to go and like go to start arguments. I'm there to like have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But even in my messiest times, and then I don't go back and like have a nice bath about it. I'm just sitting there being like, oh my God, my anxiety.
None of that for Feyre.
Give me a character that has my level of anxiety, our level of anxiety.
Oh, man.
I'm not here to like stronghold my anxiety. We all have it.
We do.
I want a character that goes back in the bathtub and replays the conversation and how they wanted it to have gone.
Because I do that all the time.
All the time.
And comes up with new witty comebacks.
Yeah, like, damn it, I should have said,
Yeah.
better hit me harder, baby. I don't know. With Tamlin, I'm not good. This is why I need bathtub time to think about it.
We see Lucian's allegiance really truly flip at this point in time. When Tamlin begs for forgiveness at dinner, though Feyre forgives him, Lucien uses his silence against Tamlin, where once he had previously used it against Feyre. I think this is an important point. In enacting violence around, against Feyre that causes her harm, Tamlin has crossed a line that Lucien finds unacceptable. As Jac keeps saying, Feyre is essentially among Lucien's only family, so that has to have caused some irreparable harm to Lucien and Tamlin's friendship. But Feyre planned this. She is sowing the seeds of discontent between the two friends, like maybe Yoko Ono?
Is that what Yoko Ono did? I don't know enough.
I don't know if she was like a groupie that they all fell in love with, and then she went off with John Lennon and split up the group. That's my understanding of her role in that.
Sounds like a lot of male problems.
It does.
Which is still here.
And it's shitty that I use Yoko Ono as an example.
But that's like the cultural...
That's the cultural understanding.
But the thing is, even with your cultural understanding and the comparison, I think it still applies because it's a man problem.
Yeah, it is a man problem. And they blame the women.
If you think that like some like woman coming in and like disrupting your friendship, like maybe your friendship wasn't strong enough. That's why we have chicks before dicks.
Yeah. And bros before hoes just doesn't work. Sorry.
No, it doesn't work.
Because the women aren't hoes.
Because the women aren't hoes. This is why your logic was flawed to begin. We only have 3% male listeners. I don't know who we're yelling at. Like, who we're going on this tangent being like, men, you're the problem. And it's like the 3% of them are like, hey.
We're here. We're your listeners too. Let's talk about Feyre inviting Ianthe over for her, quote, comforting presence the next day. Ianthe, being that girl, of course comes in with, quote, Tamlin already told me everything energy. She's trying to use her friendship with Tamlin as a form of power over Feyre. Luckily for Feyre, that's exactly what she wants.
If Feyre doesn't want Ianthe to have influence over Tamlin, then make Tamlin an ally. You don't get to have it both ways, Feyre. It's pretty simple, but Feyre wants Tamlin and Ianthe to partner together so that Feyre has more of a reason to hate Tamlin. Where is the logic?
I mean, the logic is Feyre is not giving Tamlin a chance to redeem himself.
Yeah.
She has determined he's incapable of change, that Tamlin and Ianthe are meant to be together.
But she's making it happen more.
She continues to push the narrative.
And there was that one time when even Feyre admits that like the idea of Tamlin and Ianthe getting together pisses her off more.
Yeah.
It's almost like she wants him to cheat on her because even though like they're not together, but they're together.
Right.
It's almost like she wants Tamlin to cheat on her so that with Ianthe so that she has more of a reason to hate him.
Right, absolutely. I mean, it's basically becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
In the sense that she hates him. She's pushing him in directions that will just continue to make her hate him, instead of keeping an open heart and mind to other possibilities.
Seriously. When was the last time Tamlin's had sex?
Who knows?
Was with Feyre.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And we don't know when their official last time was.
Right.
But I can tell you it wasn't great.
Right.
At that point, Feyre was laying down there like a body.
Yep.
And I don't think he gets with anyone after they break up. I'm not saying that that's like we should feel bad for him, but I'm just saying like the guy's like pretty committed to her.
Yeah. We gave him shit in season 2 and
We give him shit now.
Yeah.
No, not as much.
Not as much. I mean, we did accuse him of potentially sleeping with Ianthe in season 2.
Yeah.
But
well, that was me projecting
yeah.
a lot of that was me projecting a lot of my own insecurities. I have enough self-awareness.
Feyre uses the validation Ianthe seeks as a weapon against the High Priestess. While this spurs Ianthe into action, enacting her grand plan to release the Naga into the manor's grounds, it is all according to Feyre's plans. We then get to what may be one of the most difficult scenes of this part in the novel. When Tamlin confronts the sentry who lost his keys and resulted in the Naga being able to enter the grounds. Let's talk about positioning here in this scene. Tamlin is interrogating a tied-up sentry. When the sentry accuses Ianthe and Feyre contribute to the exchange. The Hybern commanders and Jurian watch on silently. We see once again how those who remain silent hold power. Feyre thinks to herself that the sentry must be punished, at least from Tamlin's perspective, because if he did not, it would allow the Hybern royals to see signs of weakness. Quote, weak, vulnerable, ripe for conquest. I saw the words slam through Tamlin's face as if they were shutting doors in their wake. The power plays in this scene are all over the place. Ianthe lords her position not only over the sentries, but also over Feyre. Quote, "With all due respect, milady," Ianthe says, "it is not your judgment to make." Ianthe is the perfect example of women cutting down other women right here, and it's disgusting.
I want to say that I hate Ianthe, and I completely agree with this sentiment. But when I read Ianthe's line, it reminded me a lot of Feyre cutting Ianthe down in moments before this as well. So what you're saying is spot on. It's also a moment of reflection of how far Feyre has sunk at her time in the Spring Court right now.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. And it's, I'm so conflicted because, like, I love that Feyre's being a Slytherin, but at the same time, it's not great.
No, it's not. You can be a Slytherin in better ways.
Yeah, it's true. More morally acceptable ways.
There's better avenues of morally shadiness. Yeah, like, I think what it is here, though, is, like, Feyre's not dancing the morally gray. She's gone too dark. And I think that's the charm of the Slytherin, the charm of Reese and everything, is that gray area. And Feyre doesn't know how to be gray.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true.
Yeah.
She's black or white.
Yeah, it's true. She needs a 50 Shades crossover.
But everything that's happening is playing into Feyre's plans. She is the mastermind behind this entire scene. The figurative language behind her scheme is sinister at best. Quote, "I'd given them both a length of rope," being Tamlin and Ianthe. "I supposed now would be the moment to see whether they'd hang themselves with it."
Note here that Feyre doesn't position herself as the executioner. She set this up. Feyre knew how it was going to play out. And yet, she's not seeing herself as the one who's also making it happen. Feyre ignores morality. Quote, "In this, my revenge edged towards something oily, something foreign and queasy. He would heal from the pain, but the blow to his honor, it'd take a little piece out of mine as well." Feyre is as much culpable to this as Tamlin and Ianthe right now in this scene. And the Sentry is just a casualty in her grand plan. Feyre tries to excuse it by saying he'll heal. But then she does the one thing that makes me so freaking mad. If anyone is also into true crime like me, there's something that murders do that just screams narcissism to me. It's when they kill someone and they say, yes, I killed them, but I'm the one who has to live with this now. And I don't think that Feyre is a narcissist like a murderer, but like this is a new low for her. She's lost her moral compass completely here.
I agree with you. Her morality is so questionable. Though I love her clever manipulations, what she doesn't realize is that she's doing more than killing the authority and respect that Tamlin have among the Spring Court. What she's really killing is the Spring Court itself. Quote, "the very foundations of the court destroyed."
Oh my god. Also, that last line of this chapter, SJM is screaming to us that Feyre has gone done fucked up. Quote, "The thunders cracked as it cleaved the air, snapped through the barracks, the estate, through the very foundation of the court." Through the very foundation of herself, but she just won't say that.
Because she's not the one cracking the whip, right? It's Tamlin, so she's implying the blame is on Tamlin, but it's not.
Yeah,
she's
like,
the one who orchestrated it.
Yeah, like this crack that he did, it cracked everything else that he has here. Not me, I'm totally solid.
No.
In
the aftermath of the Sentry's flogging, Chapter 9 begins with Ianthe ushering Tamlin and the Hybern commanders into the manor, while Feyre attends to the wounded sentry in the barracks. In some ways, this is painting a picture of Ianthe and Feyre's true natures. Ianthe focused on power and glory, while Feyre is focused on helping and healing. However, when we recall Feyre's role in the events that have just occurred, this picture is muddied.
What I think speaks a lot in this line, quote, "But I remain in the barracks tending to the groaning sentry, drawing away bloodied bowls of water while the healer quietly patched him up." And that's all we get. Like, that's it. We spend more time with Bronn and Hart, and we're going to get into that more in a minute. But this is the most that we see Feyre being guilty. And it's so quick, I honestly kept missing that line in my rereads. So this screams to me that Feyre isn't even interested in looking into her own guilt at this moment, because she avoids it.
You're not wrong. I do want to point out that Tamlin walks away from the sentry, just as he once walked away from Feyre after he locked her in the manor in Mist and Fury. And maybe it is this that Feyre remembers when Bronn and Hart apologize for the things Tamlin has done to her that they didn't stop. But Feyre doesn't view this apology kindly. Instead, she thinks, quote, "If I had asked them, they would have handed me their own knives to slit their throats." Despite getting what she wants out of Bronn and Hart, and though the apology is sincere, the trauma Feyre recalls at Tamlin's hands during Mist and Fury and the insensitivities of the 2 centuries make her unwilling to accept anything but their suffering. And that's a real shame.
I want to keep looking at this moment that Feyre says that she would let them slit their throats. This is going to be a theme that we're going to see in this section, that for Feyre, loyalty means death. There is no loyalty if you're not willing to die for her. Keep this in mind, and I'll point it out again later, and then again, and then again.
I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
I want to point out that when it's decided that Tamlin and Ianthe will join the group going to the Wall, Feyre acknowledges that Tamlin cannot winnow the whole group. This is in stark contrast to Rhys, who will winnow the whole fucking Illyrian army later during the attack on the Summer Court.
That's such a good burn, like good roast of, I didn't even think of that, like, Tamlin can't even, all right, 20 people, let's go.
And it's just a few miles.
Yeah. Rhys comes in. Hold my
bear.
Hold my meal. Meal? Mead.
Mead.
Hold my meal. He just hands you a tray. That's going to be that's more realistic for me, personally. Hold my cheese sticks.
During their last exchange together, Alice calls Feyre Lady. I want to point this out because I wonder if this is a reference back to the start of Mist and Fury, when everyone didn't know what to call Feyre as a newly made being. Or perhaps it's a reference to Alice potentially knowing more about Feyre's true identity as High Lady of the Night Court. I think it was one of our listeners who said in a live that she has a theory that Alice is one of Azriel's spies, and I'm not against it.
It also makes me think of Sid. She's one of our listeners, and we did an interview with her post-season 1. And she thought that Alice was probably one of the Fae that Feyre had to kill in ACOTAR. We really don't get much Alice, and we never see her again. And her role is just confusing after the first book. And I know that this is kind of like a wrap-up SJM's trying to do, but it's just always been weird. Like, what's your point, Alice? What are you doing? We never see her again.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we hardly saw her in book 2. We hardly saw her here.
You know what this means is that, like, we're going to somehow get her.
She's going to show up
in a random ass book down the line.
Yeah.
And be like, wow, Alice, you're actually one of the, like, death gods.
That would be funny.
Alice is a death god. That'd be amazing.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot. we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Feyre chooses to share a tent with Ianthe the evening the group from the spring court camp by the wall. Feyre claims this is to keep Lucien safe from Ianthe's advances. A nice little reminder that Ianthe has a thing for Lucien, which is going to come into play soon.
Is that all, Feyre? Or maybe it's because you don't want the potential of being expected to share a tent with Tamlin. Just saying.
I definitely think that's part of it.
Right. To me, that's what I read it as.
I think that is what the text says, but she paints it as wanting to protect Lucien.
Oh, yeah, completely. Like, all of her stuff is, like, wanting to protect Lucien, and everything is always subtext Tamlin.
Right. She's painting her motives to be more noble than they are.
You're not a noble bitch right now.
We love Feyre.
We love you. Love you.
But God, she sucks right now.
Like, you're not noble. There's not a noble bone in your body.
Yeah.
I can't even make a joke saying that it's Rhys because he's not there.
Yeah.
Because he's the bone in her body.
Okay, got it.
I wasn't sure if you got what I was saying. I thought
so. Normally I do. I missed it that time. What if his bone is detachable? What if it is in her?
His penis? Wait a minute.
Your concerned face was so hilarious.
I'm just had to put my iPad down. Hold up. So you're saying his penis can be removed and be transported?
Yeah, what if it's like a magical dildo?
Clone-a-cock?
Yeah.
I think Rhys could do a clone-a-cock.
Oh, absolutely. He can do anything, apparently.
Yeah, he could just make it out of shadow.
Oh my gosh.
And like...
just disappears and reappears with secret hand movements.
Hand movements? I thought it was just a penis. No, it has a penis and hand. And a mouth?
No.
It's like a whole traveling kit.
It's not what I was saying.
No, it's what I'm thinking. Oh my god, why haven't I seen this in a book yet? I read about a dragon with 2 dicks, but now I want a traveling hand, dick, and mouth situation.
Sounds like a disease.
Oh my. Hi, do you have traveling hand, dick, and mouth disease? Please see your doctor. I just need, in case you couldn't tell by our voices, Amy and I are sick.
Oh, yeah, we've been sick.
We've been sick and we're pushing through, so please excuse this. Excuse all of this just now.
Okay, let's bring it back. Spring Corp, camping by the wall. Feyre is tempted to slit Ianthe's throat. When this occurs, Feyre thinks of all the pain her friends and her sisters have gone through and tells herself, quote, "My goal was bigger than revenge, my purpose greater than personal retribution." But everything Ianthe related that Feyre's done has been completely unnecessary. Feyre learns about what the Hybern royals want without influencing Ianthe. Getting Tamlin to act out at Feyre in anger and turn the heads of the sentries did not require Ianthe. The beating of the sentry was almost a step too far, and the constant goading of Ianthe feels like revenge for Rhys and Feyre's sisters, and thus, by extension, a form of personal retribution for Feyre. This becomes obvious to the readers when Feyre, quote, "found my palm curled around the hilt of my knife anyway," and contemplates, once again, killing Ianthe as morning rises.
Feyre's going to be singing Taylor Swift's Better Than Revenge. I mean, you know that song?
Yeah.
There's nothing I'd do better than revenge. And it's like, Feyre, you suck at revenge.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things you do better than revenge. You don't get to sing that Taylor Swift song, Feyre. No. Just deleted that off her playlist. Wow. I brought out the big guns there.
And this is when Feyre realizes her own flaw for the first time, I think. Though, I don't know that she really processes it. Quote, "I wasn't sure I'd been born with the ability to forgive, not for the terrors inflicted on those I loved. I could not stomach the idea of letting these people get away with what they'd done."
When Feyre says, quote, "I weighed the knife in my hand. I wasn't sure if I'd been born with the ability to forgive." At this point, I was yelling at my book. Feyre's whole deal is that she's about forgiveness. She forgave Rhys for lying. She forgives Nesta on the regular. She eventually forgives her father pretty quickly. Feyre is one of the most forgiving characters in this book. The fact that she says this shows me just how far off Feyre is from understanding herself.
I think you're right. I also think that Feyre's forgiveness is conditional. I think that she's a petty bitch sometimes.
Yeah.
And she's not completely without flaw.
Out of curiosity, because I'm agreeing with you, but I want to think a little bit. When has forgiveness been conditional?
I feel like that's what we're seeing with Tamlin here.
Oh, but I would say, like, she's never forgiven him.
Well, yeah, and so the condition is the fact that she has to love you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Like, you're completely right. She will only have that, like, extreme forgiveness if she loves you.
Right.
There you go. I'm on your side. I'm there. I'm with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tolerating my questions.
As Feyre watches the Hybern royals examine the wall for a third time, she peels an apple. At first blush, this feels like a food is power scene, with Feyre in charge as she eats her apple and interrogates the Hybern royals. Since you've read the book already, you know that this is wrong, because the apple is actually the source of Feybane. I think there's a clue here. Quote, I sliced deep into the flesh of the apple, carving out a hunk of white meat. Benign? Maybe. But you know what is always compared to the whiteness of bones or has white-colored magic? Hybern.
I also think the way that Feyre is eating the apple is her imitating the way that they hurt the children of the blessed. It's implied that the twins kind of ate them, right? Like, it's a little shady there, because they also took them apart bit by bit. And what's Feyre doing with this apple? She's eating the meat of it. She's slicing into it. Feyre is trying to show that she's powerful like them, on the same hardcore level as them. Except she's actually, like, eating a poison apple that they gave to her, and it kind of makes her more of a joke. Like, when you read that scene with the context and how cocky she is, and the way she's just, like, casually eating the apple, and also, like, people eating an apple just drives me crazy because it's the most, like, noisy food you could eat, and it's just really loud crunching. And I can just imagine she's not chewing with her mouth closed because she's lost her morals. And I just imagine her chewing with her fucking mouth open, just chomping away. And just acting all cocky. And it's like, you know what? At this point, you deserve to be poisoned. I don't even feel bad.
Oh, my. I don't hate chewing noises the way Jac does, so I don't feel as strongly about this moment.
It makes me want to cry thinking about it right now.
I will say that the apple has become a mockery of food as power. We see this when we examine the scene from a religious perspective. Feyre here is like Eve, eating an apple that will cause her to fall from grace. It's ironic because Feyre not too long ago compared herself to a god, and the only reason she is godly is because of her magic.
The apple and the Eve imagery is so great here. The apple causes Feyre to fall from grace, leaving the Garden of Eden, or the Spring Court since it's picturesque and perfect like Eden. Then you have the whole knowledge is power thing going on, and the fact that this apple will reveal the knowledge of what's actually going on.
And really is set up for the rest of the book and the conflict.
This apple?
Feybane.
Oh, yeah. I was like, this apple sticks with her that much?
No, but like this idea that Feybane is so powerful and is so, like, it is a point of conflict.
It is. It's like a huge
novel.
thing in like the strategy of like that he has a bunch of Feybane.
Yeah.
Good call. Oh my God.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you. The cold medicine's really wearing off. Can't you tell? I forgot to take cold medicine.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah, it does.
Do you want to take some?
No.
Feyre falls from grace because she's cocky. We've said this before. We really see that here in this scene. Quote, proud, arrogant, cruel. I'd been taking their measure this fortnight. Darling, I'm sure they would have said the same about you. When Feyre begins to make her moves to escape, she not only grabs her go bag, but also Tamlin's bandolier of knives, Illyrian fighting knives, if you've forgotten. I can't decide the reason for this. Does Feyre take the knives because in doing so, she is symbolically taking away Tamlin's power, just like she has by priming his court to fall? Or does Feyre take the knives because in doing so, she takes away Tamlin's ability to mimic Rhys?
I took this to mean Feyre is emasculating Tamlin. I think it's clear that Tamlin never really had power or weapons to show that. We've talked about that in the last 2 seasons, so if you're not sure where that's coming from, then go listen to the past 2 seasons. But Tamlin is finally armed, right? He's armed with the Illyrian knives that he had at the end of ACOMAF. He got the girl, he shoved it to Rhys. Tamlin is the man again. Now, here's Feyre basically castrating him.
Yeah, painful.
You know, I love a good castration. What did my brain say? I was about to be like, can't say castration without Cassian.
What?
Without Cass.
I don't know.
I can't make it work, but it sounds cool.
This is when you know you need more cold medicine.
It's just so far away.
Feyre pauses her escape when she hears Ianthe and Lucien. There are likely several reasons for this. It could be that the sound of Ianthe's laughter reminds Feyre of Rhys's memories, which causes her to freeze up. She might be feeling a familial bond with Lucien and feel the need to stay. But I actually wonder if Feyre stays instead of leaving as her instincts instruct her, because Feyre is a petty bitch, like I said. Not once since Feyre has arrived has Feyre allowed Ianthe to get her way unless it served Feyre's purposes and ultimately allowed Feyre to get her way. To leave Lucien to Ianthe's hands is to let Ianthe win, something that Feyre will not allow in the slightest. It's only when Lucien says, "Don't touch me," that Feyre spurs into action. Until then, it's her pettiness that keeps her in place, in my mind, instead of taking advantage of the situation to escape.
I love that. Like, this bitch doesn't get to have one bit of joy before I leave. If I was Feyre, I would be so paranoid it was Tamlin that Ianthe was talking to. Even if they aren't together for real, it's still fake together, and I would still be real pissed. Like, don't go for my fake man. Side note, how does Ianthe get Lucien in those chains? He's way more powerful than her, and we've already established that he stays away from her and that she has no power.
I think about this all the time, and it is such a huge plot hole for me.
Yeah.
It does not make sense, because the only glimmer of power that she's shown is what, to make a sentry fall asleep? Maybe she made Lucien fall asleep and then put him in the chains?
I mean, that's the only thing that makes the most sense. But, like, you would imagine Lucien is stronger than that, and he's, like, chained to a tree.
Right.
How?
I don't know.
Make the math.
It doesn't math.
It doesn't math. The thing is, like, I bet SJM has a reason.
Oh, yeah. But we never hear it. Like, Lucien never explains.
If I was Lucien, I feel like I need to explain that pretty fast.
Yeah, I need to defend my honor.
Yeah, like, look, I know we all know Ianthe's the weakest one here, but here's how it happened.
Yeah.
I need to explain a few things. And, like, Feyre's like, we're in the Autumn Court. I need you to not talk. We're trying to hide. Okay, I get that, but real fast.
But I just feel the need to defend myself right this moment.
Or, like, when they're cowering in the mountain and stuff, like, just trying to stay warm, be like, hey, Lucien, quick question. What the fuck?
Or I'd be petty if I was Feyre. Like, if you don't trust him yet and he's trying to fall asleep at night, just keep him awake with ridiculous questions like this.
I was about to be like, I'd use this against him forever, but, like, he was about to be sexually assaulted, so maybe I shouldn't, But
how the heck did she chain you up, man?
Oh my god, just imagine if Feyre told Cassian and Azriel about it.
Oh, they would laugh their butts
They would
off.
never let it go. They'd just be like, hey there, scared about a tree? I just, like, how does it happen?
I don't know.
You know what the best part about this is, like, I know once this episode airs, we're going to get a lot of messages of people's theories.
Yeah.
They're all going to make sense to me.
Yeah, it's fair. We look forward to those theories.
I love those. Because then I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, they're so smart. You guys are so smart.
When Feyre makes Ianthe destroy her hand, it feels personal in a way that makes it more than just because Ianthe touched Lucien and Rhys with that hand. Think about it. Feyre is a painter and an archer. These were the two skills she had before she became High Fae and had magic. Steady, skilled, strong hands are required for these two skills. What's the worst fate you could do to someone with those skills while keeping them alive? Destroy their hands. In doing so, you destroy their ability to be independent and creative. And yes, you could say that about anyone, but I think it would be especially tragic for a painter. And so, to destroy Ianthe's hand, Feyre has enacted a worse fate than just slitting Ianthe's throat.
It's strange punishment because if Feyre really wanted to punish Ianthe, she would have stopped her from ever having sex again. This time, Feyre's like, you can have sex, but, like, you need consent. Is that a punishment or is that just good? You know, is that like a public service?
It is a public service.
That's not, yeah, that's not a punishment. And so the whole hand thing is a punishment. We talked about this during Alive, and this whole scene with Feyre and the smashing of the hand, it's dirty. It feels wrong, and it's definitely personal, and Feyre still won't recognize it. And that's what makes this whole thing just feel gross. But Feyre is positioning it in a way that we support her. And the first time I read it, like, don't get me wrong, I was like, get it, smash that hand, bitch. I was totally on board with this. But, you know, in this analysis, I'm walking away with a much ickier feel to the whole thing.
Yeah, it reflects poorly on Feyre.
The real punishment for a person who has a history of sexual assault is to, like, never let them have sex again. Forbid that.
Right. Take that urge away from them.
Yeah, the hand thing is just, like, messy.
Yeah.
Why would you even let her have sex again?
I don't know.
She's hot. There's going to be so many willing people.
It's true. Chapter 10 begins with the revelation that Feyre needs to get off her high horse. Quote, such careful plotting these weeks, such skilled maneuvering. You didn't seem to worry that we'd be doing the same. Let's really think about this. It's so much more than Feyre being cocky. When I read this line, it struck me that Feyre is 20, while Dagden and Branna are at least 1,000 years old. So of course Feyre thinks she outsmarted them. She's too young and naive to know better.
You and I talk about this a lot during our lives, but the brain isn't done developing until you're 25. So her brain is so not done developing. It's logical to me that a 20-something-year-old with some badass power would think that she would have outsmarted these immortals. I, a 20-something-year-old back in the day without powers, would have thought that I had outsmarted them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would have too.
If you guys aren't part of our TikTok or Instagram lives, you should be. Like, in my mind, they're amazing.
We spill a lot of tea.
We spill a lot of tea there, but we have young listeners and we're not harassing you guys for being young, but like, dear Lord, if you were just like anywhere near as dumb as we were.
Oh my gosh. I look back and cringe often.
Yeah.
At anything I ever said.
And not just because of the poof that I did to my hair.
It was not the clothing I wore.
If like the clothing, the hair, and the makeup wasn't the most cringy thing about me, you know my actions were bad.
Yeah, it's true. Feyre also doesn't have all the information. Prior to this, Feyre didn't know Febane could be ground up and put in water or food. Feyre did not know to calculate for its presence.
The biggest gasp moment for me was finding out that Ianthe was the one to put the poison in Feyre's food. How did Ianthe get access to her food? What was the goal here? Like, I love all of this, but it was also like, what?
What I love is that they're both trying to one-up each other on being petty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both suck.
They both suck. Feyre's really giving Ianthe a run for her money in, like, the shitty level.
She is, and I'm not cutting Feyre slack because I think we deserve to hold her to a higher standard. She really did this to herself, but I can be a little empathetic about it. Feyre was really out of her depth when it came to Dagden and Branna, and she just didn't know what she didn't know.
Once Feyre realizes that her powers are leaving, Feyre has to make a choice. She can stay here, fight, try to get Lucien out, or she can leave him, or at least start running before her powers completely disappear. Quote, leave him. I should and could leave him, but to a fate perhaps worse than death. His russet eyes gleamed. Go. That was Lucien. I made my choice. Remember when I said that loyalty means death? That's what we're seeing here. For Feyre, if you're willing to die for her, then that's loyalty. It's so extreme because it's not just perceived concept of death, it's the real world potential of death. It could happen right then, right there, and death means a lot to Feyre.
I love that point, and I love it for points I think you're going to talk about again later in the episode.
Yeah.
So, as I've been saying, Feyre is out of her depth. The only thing she has working in her favor in this moment is the element of surprise and some lucky training from Cassian. But Feyre's on borrowed time. As her magic runs out, Feyre feels, quote, the rising, stifling silence. I'd felt it once before, that day in Hybern. We see even here, in the middle of slashing blades, how silence is the greatest power. Here, it takes the form of magic locked away. Separately, I want to note the violence of this scene. Though Feyre's not going to sleep with Lucien anytime soon, sex and death are still bedmates. Ianthe attempted to assault Lucien, and in the process, Lucien and Feyre kill Dagden and Branna. Did you notice, though, that Lucien kills Branna by severing her at the neck? Then, immediately after that, Dagden goes for Lucien's throat. Lucien, whose eye was taken from him by Amarantha, Feyre saves by stabbing Dagden through the eye. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a throat for a throat.
I totally caught this too. I thought it was like good sibling versus bad sibling because you have like one brother-sister team there, the other brother-sister team there. Like Feyre and Lucien are obviously the good guys, and then you have the incest twins, and it's just a mirror between the two.
I like it.
Yeah. It was subtle. It was definitely a purposeful, subtle thing that Estrian did there.
Which I think could be really artfully done in a TV show.
If we ever get the TV show, if it gets to season 3.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Before Feyre leaves the killing scene, when Lucien calls to her, Feyre, quote, merely wiped my 2 knives on Dagden's back before going to reclaim my fallen pack. I have nothing here to say except what a power move.
Such a badass thing where it's just like, you wipe the blood off your blade. Anything like that is just cool.
Yeah. On the back of the person you just killed.
Oh, power move.
Very powerful.
Yeah, big fan. I'm just imagining us there, like Feyre saves us. She does that. We're like,
slow clap.
Wow. Wow, good job. She's like, what the hell's wrong with you? Someone please send these 2 humans back over the wall. And we're like, sorry, just really appreciate that power move.
Lucien demands that Feyre take him to the night court with her. Why? Quote, I'm getting my mate back. Okay, I was inclined to be sympathetic to Lucien, but my mate? Not Elaine, but an object of his possession.
Agreed. That's how they all reference each other when you have mates here. It's like once you become an extension of the other, you lose your own ability to be autonomous.
I don't know how I feel about it. Feyre doesn't seem bothered by Lucien's possessiveness, though, because she knows what it means to not be mated to your mate. But more than that, she observes that Lucien is looking for, quote, answers that I saw he desperately wanted. Maybe Feyre takes Lucien for that alone. She's unwilling to keep information from him the way everyone has kept it from her since she arrived in Prythian. When Feyre's power is well and truly gone, she describes it as her power being, quote, pulled away, like a wave reeling back from the shore. Only there was no return. It just went further and further out into a sea of nothing. I feel like this is significant because Feyre has such a strong affinity for water and her water-related powers. It was the first of her powers that she utilized at the Battle of Velaris when she created her water wolves.
It's also implied in this section that everyone in the camp has ingested this poison, so everyone lost their power. What was the end goal for the twins? Did they want to kill Tamlin in this moment and everyone there? Like, because that means Tamlin lost his powers too, right?
I would imagine so.
What were they doing with this? Like, if Feyre hadn't killed them, and she didn't choose that day to run away, like, what was their goal?
Or what if they did kill Feyre and Lucien, and Tamlin's without power? Do you just then kill him? Or do you be like, oh, sorry, we did this? That was an accident.
Yeah, like, what you doing here, buddy?
Yeah.
What's that goal? Feyre thinks back on her options and on a decision she made early on. So this is like when her and Lucien are running away, and she's just like, should she have taken the spring court for the night court? Like, that's the decision that she made that she's reflecting on. Does the night court take the spring court for themselves, or does she give it to Hybern? This is what Feyre thought of on her own. We know for a fact that it's not something she talked about with Rhys because we know every conversation they've had while apart. So this is Feyre making up scenarios in her mind and thinking that she alone can make this call. While she may be High Lady of the Night Court, she's also really cocky here. Feyre does not have hundreds of years of experience with ruling and military strategy. She made a very bad call. The call that she made was to let Hybern have the spring court. There were other options that Feyre didn't look into, and the fact that she lays it out like this shows us just how biased Feyre is in this moment. Feyre really went in here with her idea of like, hey, these are the only options. Like, the idea of like, well, the only options are that the night court takes it or we give it to the spring court. Like, there were other options. And also, like, her fear of not wanting to communicate with Rhys was because of the smell, right? Like,
right.
But like, when she showed up, the bonding scent would have been fresh anyway. So why not do all the communication that night?
Or over the course of a week.
Exactly. Like, no one would think that it would go away immediately. So you could just be like, hey, babe, what should I do?
Yeah, and I think what's happening again, to me, this really speaks to Feyre's youth.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a lack of creativity in seeing other options because she lacks the experience.
And that's a very youthful way of thinking of like, here are my only 2 options.
Right. And not taking into consideration that there is a lot you don't know that could be a factor in all of this. It's not a bad thing. We're all guilty of it when we're younger. But it is, unfortunately, going to bite her in the ass.
Totally. Lucien looks at Feyre and tells her, that girl I knew did die under the mountain. And it comes back to my loyalty equals death and why Feyre thinks this way. Feyre died for Tamlin, so she was loyal to him. Feyre went under the mountain and did all of those challenges and killed others and ultimately killed herself. Feyre only understands loyalty to mean actual death, not the hypothetical kind, because that's what she did. She died for Tamlin. she walked the walk.
Yeah.
She did the thing. Like, you know, what's the most loyal thing you can do? You die for someone else. She's like, bitch, been there, done that.
Right. Like, if you can't rise to my standard, then why are you here?
And her standard's really extreme.
It is extreme, but I love the point that you make. I wonder to what extent that Feyre's not capable of accepting anything less because anything less has not been demonstrated successfully to her.
Yeah, I mean, and then, like, you have Rhys, who definitely shows that loyalty, and Cassian, and Azriel, so, like, yeah, like, of course you're gonna have that level of loyalty. I was thinking about it, I'm like, I'm extremely loyal to you, Amy. I don't think I'd ask for you to, I know for a fact I wouldn't ask for you to die for me.
I wouldn't expect you to die for me.
No. Just go enjoy.
Yeah.
Remember me. I don't know,
Like, you deserve to live?
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's strange. I don't know. I don't like it. But at the same time, I want someone to die for me. But not actually.
Not actually. But I also think that that's just like a trope of fantasy storytelling.
Yeah.
The expectation is if you love me, if you're loyal to me, you will die.
One of my favorite conversations I like to have that I had with an ex was like, so you're willing to die for me? Like, would you step in front of a bullet for me?
Yes.
And like, he hated answering it. And to me, I'm like, I'd step in front of a bullet for you. And he's like, can we stop imagining either of our deaths? I'm like, I just want you to know that I would step in front of a bullet for you. And you're not answering me. And like, he eventually said yes, but like, that's my favorite game of,
let's make you as uncomfortable as possible.
you want to die for me? Would you kill for me?
Only in self-defense.
Spoiler, I don't think he was willing to.
The last thing Feyre hears as she leaves the spring court is, quote, a beast's roar as it cleaved the land. It is the same sound she heard the night Tamlin broke into her family's cottage and spirited Feyre away to Prythian. Look at the choice of words. Feyre puts the blame of the cleaving on the land on the roar of the beast. She is essentially blaming Tamlin and his choices, rather than taking ownership for her actions and her role in the whole process. Feyre isn't the one who brought Hybern to the spring court. Tamlin is. And oh, how she is going to regret everything.
Oh my god. I can't wait to get to her regrets.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really intense
The
journey.
High Lord meeting. Did we make it 2 episodes or did we make that 1 episode?
We made it 2 episodes.
Thank God. I'm happy about that. I think I suggested it to be 1.
I think so.
I'm so happy we didn't listen to me.
And now for breadcrumbs. In Chapter 8, quote, though my injuries still lingered and showed no signs of a speedy healing, perhaps I'd been too good at keeping those healing powers at bay. This is Feyre after Tamlin explodes at her, and there are just so many Faebane hints that you miss the first time you read this.
Right? Like also in Chapter 8, quote, I kept my shields up around myself and the others, the strain, now a constant headache that had any extra sort of magic feeling feeble and thin. Faebane for you, and you. You get a Faebane. You get a Faebane.
In Chapter 9, winnowing felt like wading through mud. In fact, my powers had become more of a burden than a help. I had a throbbing headache by noon and spent the last leg of the journey dizzy and disoriented as we winnowed again and again. So do you want to hear my song?
Yeah.
Fae to the Bane to the Faebane.
That's good.
Thanks.
That was good. To Liziosg to the E to the to the get it Fergie. I'm like, what am I singing? All the time I come around, brothers going around, always looking up and
I was very proud of myself.
I'm
when I
proud
thought
of you. Also in Chapter 9, quote, I kept this close, watching them, the Hybern royals, my presence now deemed relatively unthreatening, if not a nuisance. It's a trap. It's a trap. It's a trap.
So, going back to the beginning, we asked ourselves, does Feyre have any self-awareness?
No. No. She's like the least self-aware. You know what? She's really aware of the narrative that she's given herself.
Yeah, and what's tragic to me is the fact that she doesn't see that she's spinning a narrative.
Yeah.
That she's slanting everything she sees through the narrative she's told herself and the narrative she's inclined to perpetuate.
Yeah. It's the confidence that we should all have of the like, I'm kicking ass, I'm doing great. But at the same time, it's like, you know, I think that's a great confidence that we should all have in our daily lives. But like when you're messing with other people's lives, you should be a lot more humble.
Yeah. And just a lot more considerate.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not faced with a situation where we're being invaded by people who want to kill humans.
Not yet. Aliens.
Choi, choi, choi.
Choi, choi, choi.
And so to some extent, we can't understand where Feyre is. But Feyre is so committed to Rhys in the Night Court and to her sisters. But she's also extremely committed to lashing out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm seeing more.
Oh, yeah.
Than benefiting the Night Court.
You and I have talked a lot about our first read of this and being so pro Feyre. And now this read of her, like after the analysis of like this first section, of just being like, wow, that wasn't great for you. Like
No.
Feyre. She's acting like a woman or a fey female whose sisters have been hurt and whose partner has been hurt, not as a high lady who has a lot more to think about.
Yeah. And that's what gets her in trouble, is the fact that she has a responsibility to think broader.
Yeah.
And she's not capable of it right now.
I really hope our listeners feel gross with us.
I hope so too. I hope they don't walk away being like, well,
It ruined that for me.
yeah. Or just like, you know what? This season 3 is shit.
No. No. Because, like, you know, people say that we've ruined certain things.
Oh,
for
yeah.
them.
We've definitely ruined things. We've probably ruined Feyre in this whole part.
Look, I loved her too. I still do. But, like,
I do too.
Initially, I thought this was the most badass, like, tear down the patriarchy moment. And it's just really like, oh my God, you're so flawed. But we've never seen Feyre this flawed before. And that's also why this book, it's a war book. But I think it's going to be one of the most, dare I say, the most character development. And that's saying a lot because Mist and Fury had a whole lot of character development.
Yeah.
But that was like a surviving character development from not wanting to survive to learning to thrive. This is a different type of character development.
This is where Feyre gets polished.
Yeah.
Or refined. So when you refine silver, you have to heat it to a really hot temperature.
I did not know that.
Yes. You heat it to get all the impurities out. And that's what Feyre's going through right now. Is she's going through this refiner's fire. And all her imperfections and impurities are coming to the surface right now.
She's going to have to earn her title as High Lady.
Yeah.
And she does.
Yeah. But she is not High Lady right now.
Damn, she's going to have to earn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get to make a few water wolves and be like, I saved you, rainbow.
Yeah. I'm High Lady now.
I'm High Lady. I saved the rainbow. Also, real quick, thank you guys for listening to our sick voices.
Yeah.
And sick minds this episode.
I think we'll go back and edit this when we're healthy and find ourselves entirely amusing.
Heads up, next week's episode is going to be the same because we're recording it tomorrow.
It's true.
And we'll still be sick. And now this week's feature review from Apple Podcasts.
This review is from T. Markery in Australia, titled Love. I can't get over how satisfying it is to hear people who are familiar with literature and literary analysis break down one of my favorite books. I really appreciate their opinions and how committed they are to the deep dive. The hosts are very American in their diction and sense of humor, but all in all, it makes for a fun pod. 5 out of 5. I apologize for my Americanness.
Genuinely, to all of our foreign listeners, we are sorry. We've tried so hard to edit out the likes.
We are a product of our environment, is what it is.
And our environment is LA. It's not. It doesn't get worse than this
It's
American
so true.
diction.
It's so true. But we appreciate you putting up with our Americanness and listening to the podcast and enjoying it along with us.
Yeah, I mean, our international listeners bring me so much joy.
Yeah, they are all sweethearts.
They are. I love them. Love Australia. Love you.
As much as we love Canada and Great Britain and Finland and all the other places where people listen.
I
Germany.
think like 155 countries have listened to us.
That's crazy.
I didn't even know there were 155 countries. I'm kidding. I did know.
There are a lot of countries.
There's
out there.
I know there's a lot, but I mean, I was going through them and there were definitely some where it was just like, I don't know you. I've never heard of you, but I love our international listens.
I do too. Thank you for listening, and please, please, please continue to listen.
Please, we will beg.
We are not afraid of begging.
We are on our knees right now. If you'd like your review read on the podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star written review. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we'll be exploring chapters 11 through through 12 of A Court of Wings and Ruin.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a weekly mini episode.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website booktalkforbooktalk.com to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok and Instagram at the handle booktalkforbooktalk. Bye.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.